Well, good morning again, everyone. It's really good to see everybody here each week. Um, and good morning to all the kids that are here. It's a unique thing about having our church online is that we get all the adults and the kids in service together every week. Um, a lot of you kids told me last week that you got chocolate bunnies for Easter last week, and some of you guys even showed me your little chocolate bunnies that you got. A thing to know about me, if you don't already know it, is that I love chocolate. I absolutely love chocolate. It's one of my favorite things in the whole world. But I have to tell you a little story about like the very first time that I ever got a chocolate bunny on Easter when I was a kid. So I remember seeing this thing and thinking, oh my goodness, this is amazing. It's like an actual chocolate bunny. And I'm thinking this is the best thing. It's this huge piece of chocolate shaped like a rabbit. And I was like so excited. I unwrap it and I bite into it. And I was like, wait a second. What is wrong here? Because I thought it was going to be chocolate all the way through. And I bit into it and it's hollow on the inside. Like it's not chocolate on the inside. It's air on the inside, right? Now, I mean, chocolate bunnies are still pretty fabulous, and realistically, no kid needs that much chocolate. So there's so much chocolate already just in that outside shell. But I was so disappointed because I really thought it was going to be chocolate all the way through. And in my mind, when I first tried it, I was like, "It's fake. It's not a real chocolate bunny. It's a fake chocolate bunny because it's not chocolate all the way through." So I want to show you actually 3 slides, just pictures from the internet from this week. So here's somebody who gets it. Look at that. The chocolate bunny, it's hollow on the inside. So disappointing for me as a kid. And then I found a couple little things that I thought were funny that I wanted to show you along with it. Here's one. Doc, I just feel so hollow inside. And then there's also the Trojan bunny. See, I told you it was hollow on the inside. So sometimes what something looks like on the outside can be really deceptive. It looks like one thing, but when you bite into it, it's another thing altogether. A lot of us adults have had this experience when we order something online. Sometimes you order something online and it comes and it's exactly what you were expecting and you're really happy and satisfied with it. Other times you order something online and it's just not anything like what you were expecting. And it's really disappointing. It's like, oh, maybe I should have read the fine print. I thought this was going to be about 10 times bigger than it was. Or I thought it was embroidered and it's printed. Or, I thought it was going to be sturdy and it's falling apart. Whatever it is. But sometimes the appearance of something is deceptive and it's not really the same once we actually engage with it. I want to try breaking up into small groups again right at the beginning. So in a second, we're going to switch over to breakout rooms again. And a discussion question for while we're in breakout rooms today is, when is a time that you were fooled by the outward appearance of something? So we're going to stick you in a room. Think about this question, share with each other. We're going to take about 5 minutes, and then Rob's going to bring us back to the main group. What's a time that you were fooled by the outward appearance of something? All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope you were able to think of some things that have a deceptive outward appearance. I want you to just hold that in your minds because it's going to be useful for the message today. So we're going to come back to that idea in just a little bit. So we are continuing in our 1-year-long journey through the Bible that we're calling One Story. And we just finished the first quarter, which we called Part 1, Hope in the Chaos. And then we started the second quarter that we're calling Part 2, The Promise of a King. And over the next few weeks, we're actually going to do a mini series within the larger series called A Church After God's Own Heart. And we're going to be picking up our journey through the Bible in 1 Samuel. I'm going to pray and we'll get started. Well, Lord, thank you for your word. Thank you for your presence here with us. Thank you that we have the opportunity to be together online, even in this time. And Lord, would you meet us and would you lead us and would you guide us and would you form us into a people after your own heart? And pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. So God has brought the people of Israel to the land that he's promised to Abraham. But so far, it hasn't actually been paradise. Things have been pretty chaotic. Everyone's been doing their own thing. Turns out everyone's own thing is very often a really bad idea. There's ongoing conflict with neighboring people groups. And the main leader at this time is a priest named Samuel, whose birth we learned about last week. He grows up to be a prophet and leader of God's people. And the people start to ask Samuel to give them a king to lead them. Displeased with this request because he wants to be their king in a really direct way. He wants to actively and personally lead the nation. But he's also known all along that this was coming. And he's also planned all along to give the people a king just like they asked for anyway, in order to fulfill his own purposes. And over the next 3 months, we're going to be reading about Israel's kings. And we're going to see the project of human government fail over and over and over again. But it does serve a purpose, which is to point our hearts toward Jesus. Now, this whole quarter is inviting the world to long for the coming of a truly good king. So God tells Samuel who to anoint as king of Israel. And first, he chooses a man named Saul, who is described in chapter 9 as handsome a young man as could be found anywhere in Israel. And he was a head taller than anyone else. Saul looks like the kind of person that people want to be king. This is really sneaky on God's part, because he's giving the people exactly what they asked for. This is what the people want, and he's giving the people what they want. But it turns out that Saul is not really a very good king. Saul thinks that he can do whatever he wants because he's king. And he fails to have respect for other important leaders like Samuel. He fails to respect the boundaries that God has set up around his role, and he becomes preoccupied with being admired. In the story that we're going to tell today, a young man named David is a big hero in a battle with the Philistines that we're not going to go into today. But after this big battle, and as the men are coming home, the women begin to sing this song of celebration. And they sing these words, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands. And Saul was very angry. This refrain displeased him greatly. They've credited David with tens of thousands, he thought, but me with only thousands. See, Saul has to be the star of the show. And he needs that so badly that he feels the need to take credit even for what other people have done. You can imagine in modern times, Saul out there tweeting about his own greatness in battle and denouncing all of the fake news about the role that David played in the whole thing. And so God rejects Saul as king. And we see in 1 Samuel 13, the Lord has sought for himself a man after his own heart. This is going to turn out to be the young man David. And we're set up here to expect that David is going to be really awesome. But it turns out that David seems to be just as messy as anybody else that we read about in the scriptures. It's not immediately obvious what is so God's hearty about David. And over the next few weeks, as we do this series called A Church After God's Own Heart, we're going to be looking at David's story. And we're going to be exploring those pieces that do reflect the heart of God. And we're going to be thinking about how we can pursue being people after God's own heart, both as individuals and as a church. How can we be a church after God's own heart? And we're going to begin today with what it means simply to be about the heart in the first place, rather than about outward appearances. So we're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 10. God sends Samuel to the house of a man named Jesse and tells him that he's going to find the king among Jesse's sons. And right away, Samuel sees the oldest brother, Eliab. And he's tall and good looking, just like Saul. And Samuel immediately thinks, surely this is the right guy. And God corrects him in his shallow human way of thinking. God basically says to Samuel, Samuel, Have we learned anything from the first time that we did this? And it says in 16:7, but the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things human beings look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. So God has already set Samuel up for this with Saul. And he's letting him know right now that this time around, we're going to be judging by God's criteria and not by people's. This time around, we're looking at the heart. A few weeks ago, we studied the Shema, a Jewish prayer from the book of Deuteronomy. And we talked about how we tend to think of the heart as the inner life as opposed to the outer life. But actually, in the Bible, the heart is about the whole person, the inside and the outside. So that when God looks at the heart, God's looking at the true person or the whole person rather than the outside appearance. And I want to show you another little video from the BibleProject.com that's going to teach us about the heart. So once again, when God looks at the heart, he looks at person, the true person. This is the way that we think, the way that we feel, and the choices that we make, our behaviors. So it's the inward and the outward. The whole person rather than surface impressions or stereotypes. God is not impressed by the social media snapshot that is pretending to be sort of a casual accident, but actually took hours to prepare. And yet so often still manages to impress people. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be exploring what it means to be a people after God's own heart, what it means to be a people making up a church after God's own heart. And we're going to start by talking about just being people who are about the heart and not about the appearance. And I've got 3 takeaways for us. They're really actually all the same. They're really just 3 ways of saying the exact same thing. And the first one is that as a people after God's heart, we care about the true self, not about the produced self, which is a really hard thing to do in our culture where everything is produced. We live in a culture that is obsessed with images on social media. And not just people, but organizations, right? A huge amount of time and effort is put into a slick online presence for every organization, pretty much. And I want to say something about why it is that we are using this real-time, not pre-recorded, not very polished Zoom format as a church. And this is not a criticism in any way of other churches who are making the choices that they need to make for really good reasons, for really good purposes. This is just about why we're making the choices that we're making right now as a church. That we're not trying to produce something that looks sharp, that is for consumption online, that people can like, and people can click on and watch. We're trying to actually be the church while we're at a distance from each other, to be the family of Jesus in relationship with each other the way that we were meant to be, and to be able to connect with each other in real time. And a note on this is that even when we start to meet in person again, and I just long for that so much, one thing that's really important to me is it is never going to be a goal for us that we are a church that has a big stage with colored lights and fog machines and a slick show that people can come and watch in anonymity. I just don't believe that that's what the church is meant to be. And if you're visiting, one thing I want you to know is we really don't want to make you uncomfortable. We know we're breaking up into small groups, which is putting you on the spot. And then you have to share in front of people that you don't know. And I hope that you're as uncomfortable as you can possibly be. And don't feel any pressure to share with us beyond anything that you would like. But the reality is that we want to know you. We want to meet you, and we want to talk to you. We want you to know us. And that's why we have these small group breakout times, because we want to know each other more. And we just love for everyone to participate with us as much as you're comfortable. The second takeaway is, as people of the heart, we cultivate our character, not our profile. You know, we live in a world that is just full of produced images and catchy slogans. And it's so easy to be impressed by something that sounds good without even paying attention to what it means. True confession moment, question for everyone. Have you ever liked or even reposted an article on social media that you didn't read? Maybe you read the title and it had an image that went with it. And maybe you read your friend's comment on it and it resonated with you. And so you click and you swipe and you don't actually even know what the article says. And a lot of times it doesn't say what you think it says. I know, because I actually read them, which is not intended to make me sound like I'm superior. It's just that I happen to like to read. But pay attention to what's on the inside. And back to me, I'm not in any way whatsoever immune to this. I do read the articles, but I like social media a lot. A lot of you guys know that because you're friends with me on Facebook and you see me, I'm on there all the time and I'm posting things. But I've noticed something. I've noticed that it produces a craving for likes, and that in my insecurity, I can put something up there and then I find myself checking back, you know, who liked it? How many people liked it? And in this digitized social media public image world, getting likes can start to feel like you're succeeding in life. But actually, it's a complete illusion, right? All you're succeeding in is creating an image that's not necessarily even you. I always tell new speakers at Coast that the best person to use as a negative example is yourself. So I'm just going to run with this and take my own advice. I want to show you a profile picture that I posted in 2016. So this is a real Facebook profile picture that I posted of myself in 2016. The backstory on this picture is that we were on Christmas vacation with our family, and we had a little bit more budget for vacation that year than we normally did. And we were trying to decide what we could do that could be really fun and exciting. So we put it out there to the kids. We're going to be up in the mountains in the snow, and we researched what's available, and here are some things that we could do. You guys can propose like what we would do. Like, we've got this budget and here's some activities and what they cost. What do you guys think? And all of our kids decided that they thought that we should take an ice climbing lesson. So they were just amped. We're gonna blow the budget on an ice climbing lesson. So we took an ice climbing lesson, and I thought that I looked really cool in that picture. So I took that picture and I posted it online as my Facebook profile picture so that I could show off how incredibly cool I looked on my ice climbing adventure. But now I want to show you, I cropped this picture before I posted it. And I want to show you what I cropped out. I don't actually have the original of this picture, but I have a similar one. So I'm going to show you the next one, which shows what I cropped out. What I cropped out is the ground. Do you guys see where the ground is? I'm only about maybe 4, max 5 feet off the ground in this picture. And it turned out it was actually really, really hard. I'm also sweating like a pig. I'm soaking wet inside that snowsuit because the exertion, I'm not really in that great shape, and the exertion was exhausting, and just trying to pull myself up one step at a time caused me to just sweat so that I was soaked inside of my snowsuit. And the ice is really hard, and I have really weak arms. I have a lot of leg strength and almost no arm strength. So I was taking that ice axe and just hacking away at the ice, trying to get it stuck. And it was so hard just to get it to stick. And actually I was starting to break up the ice, and our instructors were getting stressed out that they weren't going to be able to have another crew come and climb in that same spot because I broke so much of it instead of getting stuck on it. It's just not as glamorous as I might want to look when I crop out the ground and post the picture where I think that I look awesome. Now, I mean, everybody wants to pick the picture that makes them look the best, right? I mean, when you take a family picture, nobody Nobody chooses the picture where your kids spilled juice all over themselves and there's snot running down their face and their eyes are bloodshot because they've been screaming the whole time because they don't want to be there taking a family picture and they just want to go home and be left alone. I've had plenty of those moments. We've got one where Daniel was screaming like that just only moments before, and we got him to hold still and smile for 1 second, and you would never know. And of course, we use that picture, not the one where he's screaming, right? So I don't want to just, make us all feel like posers here. But watch out for what it is that we're cultivating. What is it that we're putting our energy into developing? Because we don't want to be putting our energy into developing an image. We want to be putting our energy into developing our character. And when I look at those pictures and I ask myself, what do I really want to be cultivating? I realize I don't even want to be cultivating like being actually good at ice climbing. I'm not remotely interested in being actually good at ice climbing. What I want to cultivate in myself is the perseverance that I feel when I look at that picture. I want to cultivate in myself the willingness to face a challenge. I also want to cultivate in myself the humility and the honesty that's able to admit that I'm actually pretty small and wimpy and close to the ground most of the time. And what I really want to learn to do is to persevere in all the small and sexy things. Let's be people who are about building our character and not about building our profile. If this is a temptation for you, try this. In a world where everything is documented, try having a marvelous time as a family and not taking any pictures. Try working really hard to serve others and not sharing it at all, so as not to be distracted by thinking about what you look like doing it. Last thing, we're the same in private as we are in public. Being people of the heart means being a whole person, not compartmentalized people, not someone who has a different mask for each situation. If you seem like a different person in different situations, then something is wrong. Now, of course, all of us are a little bit different depending on what situation we're in. If you're a teacher or a manager at your job, then you're going to be more directive at work than you are at home. For me, as a pastor, I'm more cautious about how I say things when I know I'm being recorded and something is going up online than I am when I'm at home, where I'm a lot less guarded and often less tactful. But you should never come over to my house and have to think, wow, I had no idea Michelle thought that. Or I had no idea Michelle felt that way, right? Nobody should ever know you at church and then be surprised by what a different person you are at work or at your home or anything like that. A lot of this is trying to actually be the person that we want to be all the time, not just when other people are looking, in all relationships, not giving our families the short end of the stick. A lot of this is also openly admitting our failings and imperfections, so changing the way that we're presenting ourselves. Jesus described the religious leaders of his day as whitewashed tombs. He said, basically, you guys look like you're alive, but inside it's all dead. Inside you're hollow like a chocolate bunny. You guys are pretending to be holy, but your actual lifestyle doesn't reflect that. It's like a politician or a movie star who doesn't really care about the poor or about this important social issue that they're standing for. They're just there for the celebrity photo op. Or maybe they actually do care. Maybe they actually do care quite a lot, but they don't even know that themselves because they're so preoccupied with the photo op. Let's not be like that. Let's be people who do good things because they're good. And if in doubt, don't post the photo. Now, one thing that I absolutely do not want for Coast is for Coast to be a church that you can look cool going to. Sorry about that. I don't want us to be a church where you can post photos of what we're doing and your friends will be impressed. I want to be one where, if you look closer, you don't find out that more work went into the promo video than the actual service activity that it's representing. Let's not be a hollow chocolate bunny church. Let's not be hollow bunny people. Instead, let's invest in being a church that you can sink your teeth into, a church that you bite into and you find out that it's solid all the way through. We're going to go back into breakout rooms for a second time. We're going to spend about 10 minutes in breakout groups. This time, what is an area in your life where you're tempted to try to look different on the outside than how you really are? So I'm going to repeat that. What's an area in your life where you're tempted to try to look different on the outside than how you really are? A second part of that is, what would you have to do to become whole? Would you change something in how you're actually living? Would you instead just change something in how you present yourself? Or both? So what's an area where you're tempted to look different on the outside than how you really are? And what would you do to become more whole? Once again, there's no pressure to share beyond what you're comfortable with. Share as much as you feel comfortable in the group that you're in. And if you have extra time, take some time to pray for each other, and then we'll be back in about 10 minutes. I hope everyone had a chance to share some things that are real on whatever level is comfortable for you guys. And I'm going to just bring our service to a close in prayer. Lord, would you be at work in each and every one of us as people after your own heart? Would you make us a church after your own heart? Would you set us free from everything that draws us in other directions, everything that sets itself up to pull us away from being people who attend to the heart and not to the external things? Would you form us really deeply? Would you make us solid all the way through? Help us to become everything that you want us to be. And God, as we go into our week, would you be with us? Would you guard over us? Would you watch us? Would you heal our world? Would you bring an end to this pandemic, an end to the deaths that are coming from it? Lord, would you help us to do our part in this world? I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.